Okay, y'all. My name is Deidre, and you're on my channel. This is Shade Tree Reads, and I'm gonna let my guest introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Britt. My channel is Britt Riderly. It's a book and author tube where I talk about the intersections of literature and culture, share some writing vlogs, do some book talks. Head on over if you would like to see what I do, watch a few videos if you like it. Hit that big red button and we can be internet friends.
All right. Yes, internet friends. so we are here today to talk about the dark fantastic.
Yes, oh my gosh.
Yes. I read this. Originally borrowed it from the library, and I was like, about I think it was literally page 6. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I need to own this.
Oh yeah.
I need this. I need to mark this up. And so I do have some janky looking notes here, so forgive that. But uh, I have way more. I just didn't get to transfer them yet
Mm-hmm.
into my copy. I had this many in my library book, but I was like, I really wanted to stop reading it and just get my own copy so I could. But
Yeah.
then it just slapped so hard. So let's give people a few minutes to come in.
Okay.
Um, what is this? Hi, Leo. How you doing?
How you doing?
But yes, um, we haven't had a chance to really talk about it other than me say, hey, you need to read this. So this is kind of gonna be some hot takes, fresh hot takes.
Fresh out the box for sure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, well, let's just go ahead because we kind of have a little bit of a time constraint. Let's go ahead and get started because I don't know anybody like personally. I know some people from seeing their Goodreads um,
Mm.
through BookTube. I know some people who have read it in the community, is what I'm trying to say. But I don't know anybody personally who has read it. I've gotten a couple people to pick it up, like buy it. I was like, don't if your library has it, cool.
Right.
And you
But
can
you're
start
gonna
it
want
while you're waiting for it to ship. Yeah.
you're gonna want to
But
own it.
like you're gonna want to own this, I promise you. Like anybody that I recommended to, I knew that it would, it would
Mhm.
slap. So um, so tell me, I know you finished it, what, about 3 or 4 days ago?
Oh, was that it? I don't know. I feel like I finished it more like a week ago, actually.
Okay.
Um, yeah. And yo, I was like, didn't my good sis tell me the truth?
Yeah, I
Did she tell
did.
me the truth?
I
I,
did.
yo, my gosh. I was like, what? Telling the truth, just telling the entire unadulterated truth, like her Ebony Elizabeth Thomas, her foray. It's not really a foray because like this is what she does. She has a blog on this as well. So like she is in this discourse, and what she gives us here is looking at some cult favorites, like some like very like some best-selling books, some like widely acclaimed teen dramas. Like she gives us things that most of us are going to recognize, most of us watched and loved, and we're like, oh my gosh, that was my youth, or whatever, or I'm watching that right now. Like she's giving us those and being like, isn't there something about the way Bonnie Bennett shows up? There is. Isn't there something about the way that Rue lives and dies and the way that then her memory gets operationalized? There is. Isn't there something about Gwen and the way she shows up in the drama as opposed to the way she shows up in folklore? There is. Like all of these different things that she brings us, and it's like it is on script. That's why I read it, Josh. It's like, oh my god, telling the truth. And some of the things, because I didn't watch Merlin, so some of these things I'm just like, Oh, okay, that tracks. And she does a really good job of, even if you didn't read the book or watch the show, still making it where you can understand the premise of the show and then the scenes that she's reading. But she just does such a good job of bringing us into what is the dark fantastic, because this is published by New York University Press. Like it's critical theory. And for some people, critical theory, like you hear critical theory and you're like, oh, I don't read that, or the language is too elevated, but it's not. It's very,
No.
very easy to understand. And that's one of the
Yes.
things I love about this as well. I could talk forever, but this is a conversation. So
Yeah.
those are
Let me
output.
no, but that's what this book did to me. And the fact that, I mean, I'm a little bit older than you, and so, and I think I might be a little bit older than this woman who wrote this, but not much, not by much, I don't think so. For me to even have gone back to, like, if we had gone back before even Harry Potter, and we think about, I'm finna really show my age, but like we think about the Power Rangers, and the one black character wore the black
Yeah.
outfit, and he was the, you know, it's kind of like, isn't that super on the nose? You know, what is that about? Um, and then you think of, I'm trying to think of, like, did we have a, we had Lisa in Saved by the Bell.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I'm trying to think of maybe like one other example that would be for millennials, I guess, like literal. I don't know. Are you a millennial? Are you the next
Yeah.
generation?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but
Not.
okay. I'm sorry. I don't. No shade. No
Very
shade
peaceful.
to
Go
any you
ahead.
or them or no, none of that.
No,
I'm
I'm
just.
95.
I'm sorry.
95.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I I was just thinking of that, of like the shows. Like, I didn't watch the Vampire Diaries, but I did read the Sookie Stackhouse novels, which is like, usually people are team Sookie or team Vampire Diaries and all of that. It's like, from
I
what I'm
believe
hearing, like
that.
either you watch one or the other for the most part. If like, from my experience and my friends around me, they just didn't watch both.
Okay.
So but I didn't watch the Vampire Diaries, and I didn't watch Merlin either, because I think that's pretty recent, isn't it? I don't watch much
Know it
TV in
over
the last.
him, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely like it's not the ending of it is not even 3 years old.
Okay, yeah. So I haven't been watching TV for the most part. I've been without cable, so like any of your sitcoms and stuff, I wasn't watching until if they came on Hulu or Netflix or something. So yeah, like this. Even though, to your point, you said, even though I didn't watch any the Merlin or the Vampire Diaries, I still could be like, oh yeah, this has got a point. You know, like, regardless, like, it wasn't like it was a bias, it didn't come across as a biased opinion either. It was like, this is how she was in the book series, and this is how she was portrayed in the TV show.
Right.
And you can't really argue with what was actually, I mean, of course people interpret things differently,
Right.
but like, you can't really argue with facts, but some people still do. I'm gonna take a
Yes.
drink on that note.
They find a way. Oh, I should have gotten myself some tea because I should have known this was gonna be nothing but tea between us.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
never finish this glass. Oh well. Um.
Yeah.
Oh, oh,
Like,
oh,
I was born in 83. So when, I think Power Rangers was like early 90s, I want to say. I could don't even get me the line, cuz I didn't watch it that much either. But still, I knew what they were, and because it was just like one of those things, like, oh, this show has a black character, this one doesn't, or, you know, that's just naturally what you sort of observe.
oh, Merlin is actually older than
Okay.
I thought. I'm lying. Okay, so the first episode of Merlin was in 2008, and the last one was in 2012. Okay, so shows what
Okay.
I know. Yes, you're correct, Josh.
Okay. Yeah. I should have looked that up before we got here, but yeah. So it's just, I mean, she went generational at the end of the
Yeah.
day, because Harry Potter, the movies started coming out early 2000s, and the books were like I'm trying to make sure we don't have any trolls, but I don't know why we would, and I can't figure out how to mute my YouTube. Anyways,
Oh, you right click the tab and then options will come up.
okay, thank you,
Mhm.
thank you, because I was like, no, ma'am, Pam. Okay,
Yo, I'm literally looking at YouTube and I don't see any
yeah,
trolls. I always miss the trolls
okay,
though.
yeah. I don't think I have any
Oh, okay.
too
But you're
much.
saying some came up and I was like,
No,
hold
no,
on.
no. I was just saying I'm just making sure we don't have any, and so I can get rid of them quickly.
Okay.
But yeah, so I really appreciated that about this book. Let me put this down. I'll click this all day. Um, I really appreciated this book for jumping around a lot of different um like niches in pop culture. Like what was that one? What was the second one? Was
The Hunger
it
Games. He gave us Harry Potter, the Hunger
Hunger
Games.
Games? Yeah. I mean, we didn't even talk about Twilight because there wasn't a single.
Did she mention Twilight?
No, I'm saying we didn't even talk about Twilight
Oh,
because I mean I'm
there's
thinking
nothing
about
to
when these
say.
things came out. No, 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 I'm thinking about when these things came out and like what
Oh,
was going on in the world.
oh,
Like I think Harry Potter and like was the first thing, and then I want to say Twilight, The Hunger Games, and then Divergent was all around the same kind of time frame as the movies go. They all tried to like capitalize off of all of that,
yeah, because there was
and
the
so
vampire craze, which she referenced. Like, there was the vampire craze around like Twilight and the
mm,
Vampire Diaries, and then that getting a TV adaptation. Like there was definitely a like, and then
it was a whole thing.
who was LJ Smith had the Night World as well. That's
Okay.
a book series. It's 9 books long. We've been waiting for book 10 for since my childhood. Literally since I was
Yeah.
a teenager, we've been waiting for book 10. And at this point, there are like whole posts just trolling her, like, you're gonna leave us on book 10? Because they're supposed like she gave us
Yeah.
an excerpt of book 10 in the end of book 9. And then it's like, wait,
Yeah.
if
Where
you had
is
an
she?
excerpt by the end of book 9, it should not take you
Yeah.
a decade to write the 10th book. We're all very confused, but that's not the point of this. The point though, there were a lot of vampire books coming out at that time that were very
Yes.
successful.
Yeah, it was. And then it was a lot of the chosen ones type situations going on. So, yeah.
Mhm. They
And
love. They love.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, is there one or two points from let's say let's start with the Hunger Games section. Was there one or two, or do you want to start with the theory first?
We can start with the theory so that we can reference it freely throughout.
Okay. Was there anything in particular um, for you that jumped out in that first in the theory?
In the theory, I just to lay out her dark fantastic cycle, which is introduced in the first chapter. Um, there are five there are 5 stages of the cycle, and what got me was that she was saying that the last stage is hardly ever reached. Which I was like, yeah, because I can't even conceptualize how that would work. So the first stage in the cycle is spectacle, which is essentially the visual and imagined representation of the dark other. Um, the second is hesitation, and that's the discovered presence of the dark other, which interrupts the waking dream of the fantastic. So essentially, like when you realize that there's a monster or a villain or a blackened or in darkened, as she says, in darkened subject on the periphery of the dream that sort of shocks you out of like out of the dream state of the fantastic. The third stage is violence, which is how you resolve the hesitation, right? Because the dark one, the darkened one, the dark other is not supposed to be there, so you kill it. Um, the fourth one is the haunting, because the destruction of the dark other is never permanent. Even if they are not literally like coming back like zombies or something, or like vampires do if you don't kill them correctly, right? Like even if they're not coming back in that literal way, the memory of them recurs, and to some extent like the threat of them coming back in some way, the dark other becomes a present absence that haunts the story because, as she says, the fantastic has need of darkness because every story needs a villain. It's what makes it interesting. So that's the fourth stage. And the fifth stage is emancipation. It's the final stage of the cycle that's rarely ever obtained. It's only achieved when the dark other is liberated from the four former steps. Because remember, in Haunting, that you realize that the dark other is fettered to the story because it needs a dark presence to offset the hero. And what got me with that was like the realization that it's true that even when we have because it happens all the time, right? Like we watch series and the season finale, the villain is finally conquered, and then the next season there's another villain, or that same villain isn't really gone. And I'm like, is that why? Because they really needed him, her, them to exist because without them there is no story. So essentially you're continually killing the dark other. And she has this line, and I won't be able to find it now that I'm looking at for it, but she has this line or in the introduction or the first chapter, where she essentially says that even if unconsciously, that when people when black people are watching the dark other be slain, which is to say the villain being slain. Oh, I did find it. Look at me. Okay, so she says essentially the implicit message that readers, hearers, and viewers of color receive as they read these texts is that we are the villains, we are the horde, we are the enemies. And later she says, "You are the orc," and I swear I was like, that hurt my whole heart because I wanted to Legolas's whole wife. Like, why am I an orc? Oh my gosh, it broke my heart. But anyway, the book continues. We are the monsters. For many
Yeah.
readers, viewers, and fans of colors, I suspect that at the level of consciousness, to participate in the fantastic is to watch yourself be slain, and justifiably so, as the story recounts. And then she goes on to like, after all, you're in the fairy tales, you were the terrorists of the hapless villagers, you kidnapped the fair sister, all these different things. But that really just got me because I was like, oh my gosh, correct. If the dark other in the story, if the black subject, and hi Nana, hi. I love Nana. She's so wonderful. Her content is dope.
I love her channel so
I
much.
love her so
Okay.
much. It's like, boom.
Hey, Emma Ray.
But that just got me.
Sarah.
Yeah. So I was just like, I can't, because it makes sense. If in the story you are the dark, whoever the dark other is that gets the most attention, right? Because if it was just a slave, then they wouldn't care. But because, for instance, because Gwen wasn't just a slave, because they are a servant, and they knew she was that Gwen meant Guinevere, which meant she was going to rise to storied importance. That's when they weren't okay with her. But when the camera just panned by her and all they saw was a black girl, they weren't pressed. But because she
Yeah.
was a black person that was going to have importance, she was darkened in that moment. So if any black person or if any dark person of importance is going to be the monster, then as the reader, that's who you are, and that's who you're rooting for their destruction. And I was like, oh, can we imagine, like, this is how racism becomes internalized, because we read these
Woo.
books, we identify with the heroes who are killing us, and we believe that the monster deserves to be killed because, as she says, we never get the monster's point of view.
Yeah.
So those were the two things that really got me, was the identifying with the villain, and her whole thing about monster theory from Jeffrey Jerome Cohen of like, what's the monster's point of view? The monster is the guardian of difference. The monster is becoming, all those different things, like, snatched me up.
Yeah. I think I don't remember if it's in the conclusion or if it's in part of the introduction about the restoring. I feel like it had to be restoring. Um I feel like it had to been in the conclusion part.
I
But
searched the introduction and it wasn't in there.
yeah. So I will talk about that later, but that's I read the beginning. You told me to read when I talked to you about this before I had read it. You were
Uh-huh.
like, read the author's note and read the introduction, and then go from there.
Mhm.
I end up reading it front to back after that.
That's fine.
But yeah, but because I liked the way she was progressing,
Hmm.
I liked her writing.
Yeah,
But
very accessible.
I decided that I'm gonna just take the footnotes and the bibliography and probably just start checking start checking them off and just
The
reading them
book.
because no, like the notes and the bibliography in the back.
Uh-huh.
I'm probably just gonna try to read those, like some of her sources, because she has them all broken down
Oh
per
yeah,
section
yeah, yeah.
in
That's
the
fair.
back.
Yeah,
Um, so like I mean, each one of her like you don't even have to search that hard for the foots. It's I don't.
yeah.
Is that how you write a dissertation? Is this what this is about? Because I only have a bachelor's. So what is
I
this?
don't
Just an
think.
academic?
Yeah, I don't think this is her dissertation, but
Yeah, no, I don't think it is either. But
yeah, I mean this format,
yeah,
um, kind of.
kind of.
Yeah, a dissertation is a book length work, but for
Yeah,
instance, whenever I finish my dissertation, if I wanted to push and publish it, I would have to revise it into like a manuscript for publishing, because
I
otherwise like the
got you.
footnotes in my document would be like right up under here as opposed to
Yeah,
like in a notes section in the back. But
got
this
you.
this type of work, that level of citation, yes. So like all of the
Yeah.
work, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I enjoyed it, and I didn't think that. I don't know. I don't remember. I know that Chloe from Thistle and Verse has
Hmm.
had read this maybe like mm, 2019 or something. So it's been on my. When was this published? Or
2019.
she maybe she got an arc or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it came out in 2019. So she might have gotten it when it was first released, but
Oh,
it's been on my TBR since then. And I was just I was just really like intimidated by the fact that it was published by like an academic
hmm,
type situation, but this was so impactful, informative. It helped me put some even though maybe it won't sound like it right now, but it helped me put some language to some of my thoughts that I've been having about some observations in some of the books that we've been reading, especially here lately with all the black girls on the cover. So
this was
we haven't
extremely
even talked
helpful.
about that. We haven't even talked about that one book that you recently finished. That made me that I told you to read this and then finish that. So yeah. Oh yeah. So
Mm.
yeah, Josh. Well, you said you've read this, right? I think Josh did say he'd read this. So, what? How did you find the writing in this? I don't know how long ago it was that you said you read this, but that was one of the things that really impressed me about this. Anything that she publishes, whether fiction or nonfiction, I will be
You eat
buying.
it up.
I need it. If I could have a direct line to it, I probably should follow her. I didn't
You
realize she had a blog, but I
Oh
did
yeah,
follow her on Twitter.
yeah. I think I came across her blog the other day.
Yeah, yeah, I'll have to find that, and I'll probably put it in this description box once I find it. But yeah, the theory, the imagination gap is one that I had marked.
Hmm.
It's like on page 6,
Okay.
but it's just like here are the things that we are failing at, and it's just
Hmm.
an
Hmm.
imagination gap. So one of them is there's an imagination gap. Excuse me, let me start over. There's an imagination gap when 9 out of every 10 books published in the juvenile market feature the same kinds of characters. They have been spotlighted since the inception of children's publishing in the United States. There is an imagination gap when we cannot fathom that a young black girl could be the symbolic mockingjay who inspires a revolution in one of today's most popular young adult adopted mega series, The Hunger Games. So that whole section, I'm just a pause right there. Like even in real time, when reading The Hunger Games and then going to watch the movies like at the midnight release, and to hear the audible gasp when Rue is on the screen is like, did y'all not read the books? Is that not why you're here at the midnight release? Like, what? Like, what? Why? What's the surprise? What's the
But that's
surprise
the
here?
thing, right? Even when faced with a character who is described as brown, we don't
Yeah,
racialize that as black. Like they just unsaw it. I'm like, truly, truly. And that like that's the I mean I skimmed it but I've skimmed it before during my like comprehensive exams. I want to go back and read it more thoroughly because even when I was skimming it I was like, oh, this he's saying something, and she references it. Robert Bernstein, racial innocence, when
read it.
he's talking about childhood. Let me pull that full title. But like I was like, yeah, the way we educate children through stories is actually a little scary
It is.
because they're like, I mean, now like we have writings on it, but how many people are reading this?
Right.
How many
I
people
don't
are getting
know.
this lens?
I'm not sure.
Right. So Robert Bernstein's books is Racial Innocence: Performing American Childhood from Slavery to Civil Rights. And
Okay.
remembering the bit of the whatever I read, hey Bree,
Free.
October, okay. Um, he is talking about like different tokens of childhood that teach. Hey Sid, um, that teach children race dynamics. See, like he even goes into like some minstrelsy imagery in Mickey Mouse, and the fact that Mickey Mouse is totally black with white hands, and how like he then puts it next to an image of like a Jim Crow minstrelsy show, and it's like these are very similar, and that was not accidental. We sort of just like moved away from it now, but in the beginning minstrelsy came into children's shows as well and taught them that this is how black people are seen: lazy, silly, all of these different things. And yeah, it's a very interesting book. You should definitely read it. But it's appalling how we teach children racism and they never clock it as being taught racism, such that they say things like, am I racist because I'm less sad that Rue is dead because she's black? Yes, yes, you are. But you know who taught you that? Sesame Street. Like, that's how far back
Yeah.
it goes.
Yeah. 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 I mean, yeah, and I guess it's like I'm glad that I'm out of school and I don't have to have like this great awakening now, like you know. And I don't envy you at all, sis. I do not envy you. But I'm very, 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 very happy that this exists. You know, I'm glad that the conversations are being had and that um I got to be like I got to have a piece of it, you
Yeah,
know,
I mean,
like
you're getting all of it. You just don't have the pressure to respond.
yeah, and like I said, I don't envy you because now that you've seen it and it's been called out, like you can't unsee it and you can't not, you can't
Respond.
not. Yeah.
Respond like it, like I could have, right, because my dissertation before was already about like black women's literary fiction. It had nothing to do with SFF genres, so I didn't have to respond. But after I read this, because I've been reading so much more fantasy, one, to cope with graduate school, and then two, more so because my booktube channel, now I'm like, the vast majority of what I read is no longer literary fiction, it's SFF. And while I could straddle, I found that I really didn't want to. And so I was like, let me, because this is what I'm passionate about. This is what I want to have. This is what I already have a critical lens around. This is what I want to add to the conversation. Is what I end up talking about, which is spectral fugitivity as opposed to psychic fugitivity, which I was talking about before in my other dissertation. But no, this absolutely changed my dissertation, and I had to call my advisor and be like I had a whole statement for her. Like literally I was like, wait, I have a statement to read you. And she was like, okay. go ahead. Which she was like, I thought you were calling me to tell me that you were dropping out of the program, so this is better than that. I was like, yeah, isn't it? Like, I'm still here. I just can't I just can't do that. So like this is the statement that I read her. It's really small, but I needed some because I was like, this feels like she could be like, what are you talking about? But I like this book. I was like, this changes things. So I said, I'm less concerned with psychic fugitivity for self making and retreat during Black postmodernism, and instead wonder at the relationship between spectral fugitivity and science fiction and fantasy. I am, in short, interested in what worlds and representations spectral fugitivity births, because this too is self-making as a of a paradoxically intimate and public nature, right? Because when we're reading this, these people, even though they're not Black, and I'm looking at Black science fiction and fantasy, but this is teaching you how to see darkened subjects, aka Black people, that they are monstrous. This is making meaning for Black people, and completely like taking their agency away. But like that, her thing about what was it? Representation. I forget. I just lost my train of thought. But there was one particular point that she had that I was like, and that changes everything from psychic fugitivity to spectral fugitivity. Oh, it was haunting when she was talking about the fact that the dark other is forever tethered to the text, such that even when you kill them, they remain. And her reading of Gwen as being trapped in the past, even though Arthur is the once and future king, like he gets to come back in a non-haunting way, right? Like he gets to come back and forever and ever be the hero. And Gwen is only ever going to be a queen of the past who had to rule alone after everyone that she had come to love is dead. Her dad is dead. Her brother, I think, ends up getting killed in the series too. Arthur is killed. Merlin is like wandering the earth looking for him. Like all of her people are gone. And she is put up with this tableau of like killing a witch, which is exactly what the first evil king did. So like she has fraught parallels to live through alone, and other people get to like die gloriously and come back as heroes, and she doesn't. Like that, it makes you a haint or an evil spirit even when you didn't do anything wrong and don't want to be.
Sorry, my
No.
this, they just
I
tap
already know.
dancing. Yes, but yes, all of that you said, all of that. Another note in the no, this is in the Hunger Games section,
Okay.
but in the um the sympathy for the monster
Mhm.
section, I said this whole damn page is what I wrote on my note. So I'm not sure because I had a library book, so I couldn't highlight or nothing. So
Right.
let's see. Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me just find what exactly about this page had me. Okay, this is when we were talking about the dark fantastic cycle. So it was probably the whole explanation about it that got me. So never mind. We're there. We're already there. Um, and so you read the Hunger Games and watched the movies, and when in the moment, whenever you first read it, what did you think of the like Rue as a character, the whole, especially I forget what district she was from, but like the whole setting of the district.
11.
11. Okay. I thought you were telling me. Hold up.
No, no.
Yeah. So District
District 11.
11
Yeah.
and the setting, like what District 11 was about, and then the coal mining situation. Like, what did you think of all of that? And were you old enough to like think about that, or were
Yeah, I
you know
don't know.
what?
To be perfectly honest, I don't and will never remember if I read Rue as Black the first time. I don't remember.
I don't
I don't
remember.
know if I like read it and
Mm,
just like I
mm.
mean it didn't bother me either way. So I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
like, when I
I
saw the
don't.
movie I was like, "Yes!" Like I was very
Yeah,
excited. And then
yeah.
when it started being a
Let me
whole
try
thing,
to.
people were like going back to the book. I was like, "Yeah, didn't you read?" But like I don't remember. I don't
I'm
remember.
trying to think. I'm trying to think. Now that you say that, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I feel like I remember that and I remember being mad that they were mad.
yeah, I
But
definitely was. I was that, but I don't.
yeah.
I wouldn't say I remember reading her Black the first time after.
Okay.
I think I
Okay.
just read. I
Yeah.
just
Well,
read.
okay. So to that note, when you saw it visually in the movie, when you saw, because I don't know to the point of not or remembering if she was black specifically, I for sure didn't know that that whole district was like.
Yeah, I don't think I knew that.
I know I didn't. So, but when I saw that in the movie and how that was depicted, I remember feeling some type of way about that. I didn't know like, how to articulate why I felt like that. But
Do you
I'm gonna
know? You
see.
know now? Do you want to articulate now?
No, I still don't, because it was just one of those, like,
Yeah,
because I don't know how to explain it like, when you grow up and you don't really see very many black characters, like kids today, I don't know how they're gonna be in 10 or 15 years. I feel like they're just gonna feel like it's a thing that always was. But when
right.
you grow up only seeing like the one black friend and always the one black person and always,
Yeah,
you just kind of cherish that one black person so
yeah,
you don't really think too deep or try to poke any holes. But now I do
yeah,
when I
yeah.
see things
That's
that are the modern things.
mhm.
So I know I remember feeling like, damn, I don't think I realized that whole district was kind of like the black district and it's a farming district. I realized it was a farming district. So I don't know if I just wasn't,
Yeah,
I don't know. But I
yeah.
do remember feeling some type of way when I saw it represented on the screen. I do
And I
remember
don't think
that.
I even felt some type of way. Like I really was just happy to see Black people. Like I
Yeah,
think
I
what you
think that
said
was
is
me.
so true that we hold them so close that we
Yeah,
don't step back to examine what we're looking at. And I
yeah,
think
yeah.
her point that got me was when she was, and by the way, like I did not like Katniss.
Yeah, I mean, she wasn't likable. Not really.
I didn't like the flip flopping back and forth she did with Peter
Uh,
and Gail. I was like, Peter
mm-mm.
deserves more from you. Like it just, I didn't like Katniss at all.
Yeah,
Which like I
I
get
liked her in the movies. I didn't really care for her in the books, but
either way. I was
she
just
wasn't
like,
likable.
you're not giving me much, are you? Like your
No, no, she
emotional
wasn't.
spectrum, you're not giving me very much. Which like
No.
do you? Because I don't like all the girls don't have to be preppy and always whatever. But I just didn't really care for Katniss. Um,
Yeah,
and in the same way that some people are like after they saw the publishing paid me they'll never be able to read certain white authors the same knowing that they get paid so much more than black authors after seeing
yeah,
this I'll never be able to see Katniss the same knowing that she's the mockingjay that got to survive when you stole your flame from a little black girl. That's just me.
mm,
um
mm,
that's
mm.
just me. I won't be able to see
And
it the
me too.
same because like that also like the work
Mm.
song that becomes like especially in the movies because right in the book we can't hear the notes but in the movie that that's the four note harmony that Rue would sing to let everyone working know that the day is over. I can't.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
agree. Like, because the parallels to
mm,
District 11 being field hands and what we know of Black people in fields in this country are too stark. So, for you to take what is essentially a work song, an enslaved work song like that, because that's the imagery that District 11 is, in case we're not being
hmm,
clear. For you to take that and make that the revolution song for a revolution that is mostly white faced, I don't appreciate it at all. It's disrespectful.
yeah,
And then you only refer to Rue's memory as it serves to give you fire to continue this revolution that she incited basically through her death, because you doing that work song is what sparked the riots in District 11 where all those black people revolt because of your touching gesture and then get killed. Like all of the things is just too messy and uncareful. That's the thing. Messiness, all right, if it's messy for the sake of unsettling things, but that was just messy in an irresponsible way.
yeah. And I don't know because I was just looking up when that movie came out. The movie came out in 2012, so I didn't realize it was that recent. Is Google wrong? Is this a DVD release
No,
date?
like they're not
Hold up.
Hunger Games is not that old. Because the first book was written in that was published in 2008.
Okay, but when did the movies come out onto the screen? I think they just gave me the DVD release. Because I'm like 2012. That's when I moved here, so I feel like I had already seen the movie several times, but maybe not. So I did go to some midnight releases in my 30s. Let me
Maybe.
see. I should say movie instead
Okay.
of
Yeah,
DVD.
no, the first one is 2012.
Wow,
Yep. Which
I did
makes
not.
sense.
That's
Like, let the trilogy end first. Like the first book didn't come out until 4 years prior to that, so it's pretty
yeah.
quick.
Okay, yeah, it is. It is. They were on. They was trying to get on that train because it was moving.
Yeah,
Okay.
it definitely was.
um. Yeah, I definitely went to. Yeah. Anyways, I just went down a memory lane. Um. Let's see. So, did we spill all the tea we wanted to spill in the Mockingjay section? Because,
Yes, and I don't
child,
want to.
that one
I know
really
you
broke
got
me.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
do. I mean, we can go over a little bit. I just yeah, I just want to try to
that was
keep
the
it tight.
biggest thing for me was that Rue was the
Yeah.
first Mockingjay, and the fact that you took her as inspiration for a revolution that she never even lived to see, and the part where she was like her memory is part of the operation. It's not
Hmm.
nostalgia. It's not love. It's you. And then you saying like, "Oh, to. I don't have time to remember. I have to keep going." The fact that Rue is essentially a darkened Prim, and people can love Prim but not care when Rue gets killed. All of those things just pissed me the heck off.
Right. They're both named after flowers and yeah.
Pissed
But
me the heck off. I'm like, are we
yeah.
not tired of hating little black girls to death?
Yeah.
Are we
Yeah.
not tired of that? Like it's exhausting and infuriating. So yeah, that's the tea for me. Is like Rue's centrality as a paragon in that trilogy, even though she was killed in the middle of the first one.
Mm,
Truly, you will not even allow black characters to die.
yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. So then your jam came up after we talked about Rue. Uh what was your biggest takeaway from the examination of Gwen in the BBC's Merlin?
Oh, that wasn't my jam. Bonnie was my jam, but
Oh, Bonnie. Okay,
yeah,
okay, okay.
because I
In
didn't
the
watch. I
Vampire
didn't
Diaries.
watch.
My bad.
No problem. I didn't.
Mm,
I didn't watch Merlin either. What I found
okay.
interesting was her talking about the two things. One, um, her talking about the fact that in folklore, Guinevere was always either a princess or like in the high courts in some way, but in Merlin, she was introduced as a servant of Morgana, who was like the queen's adopted daughter. So you're the
Mm,
servant of a sort of adopted daughter, like poop
yeah.
for a feel
Yeah.
from being a princess, which I'm like, you just can't stand for a black for a black woman to be in a level that elevated. And from what I got from the book of her talking about Gwen was already carrying herself like a princess. She was already telling Arthur what was what. She was already noble of carriage, but y'all still demoted her to that of a servant because you always need black servants
Yeah.
to be noble moral guides. And so that happens. So that was the first thing that you required her to be a noble servant instead of the nobility that she was in Arthuriana lore. The second thing was the decline and imprisonment of Gwen two times.
Yeah.
The imprisonment of
Hmm.
her by Morgana and the imprisonment of her in the past. I hate that they had to have her be compromised because her
Yeah.
morality was one of the biggest characteristics that you gave her at first, that she was one of the few people that would question Arthur because she had
Hmm.
that moral ground. And
Hmm.
after Morgana compromised her, torturing her, so you want black women to be either infallible or nothing. because
Yeah.
after that, all of her scenes were like nothing. She
Hmm.
didn't really have any scenes, and I have to grab my charger, so I'll let you talk. But
No
the
worries.
fact that they needed her to be completely without fault, otherwise they would not allow her to have any major roles. I'm like, she can't be, like, we're not superheroes. Like, we're not inhuman where we don't make any mistakes, and she didn't make a mistake. Like, that's
Yeah.
the thing, is like, she didn't make a mistake, she just was overcome, and the fact that she was not this impregnable force for them was enough to demote her to trophy wife.
Um, I don't remember a whole lot from this section. Because I didn't on something. But I had so many tabs. I'm so upset that I didn't get to reread it completely. Um, but that part that you said about her being um pretty infallible and a moral character, and they had to like just basically bring her through the mud to get like to move the story along. Essentially, like she was from what I understand, she like the things that would happen to her would help get the rest of the men in the story pretty much um move their storylines or lineage or whatever along. And I just, it's just another example of where we can't just thrive. It's just it's gotta be we gotta be being brought down a peg or two. So here's a spectacle. No, that's not the Dark Queen. We're going. Oh, all this dialogue. I remember first reading this and thinking, I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, I want to move on because I don't remember that much from this section to
Okay.
the Vampire Deck Diary section.
Okay.
Um, because I thought that was really interesting because I've seen several people on Twitter. I think it maybe did it get put on Hulu or something during the pandemic, or because it was people watching
I
it
think it's been on
recently.
Netflix.
Okay, maybe that's what it. Well, maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was about to go away, so people were watching it real quick. Because I remember at the end of last year, it was a bunch of people talking about it. Um, and I was like, "That's it. Just wasn't my jam." So tell me about your homegirl, Bonnie Bennett.
Bonnie, Bonnie for president, yo. Like,
Mhm.
Bonnie for all the darn way president. Like, honestly, I only watched Vampire Diaries for Bonnie, and I stopped watching it when I got absolutely done dirty. I like can't act right to save your life. That's what's crazy to me. Y'all just can't act right. Like, I stopped watching it around the end of season 2, and so when she said most Bonnie fans tapped out after season 2 because they severely reduced her story, I was like, sick of it.
Yeah,
I'm sick of it. Like, I can't. I'm tired of having to dig for scraps for these black queens.
yeah, yeah,
Like, the fact that honestly, I didn't care anything about Elena. I cared so little about Elena that I in fact began to get very very agitated when Elena came on screen, because I was like, nobody cares. Like, your
no
main
way.
job is that you are like, for the first couple of seasons, until we figure out that she's like has this like whoever this older vampire who was Stefan and Damon's first love, whatever the heck, Catherine. Until we find out that Elena is linked to Catherine, we are supposed to have our major draw to Elena be that she's a skinny, pretty white girl. That's literally it. Who's catching the eye of these hot and vaguely dangerous guys who we don't even know are vampires yet, or she doesn't even know are vampires yet. That's it. So for an entire season or so, we're just on the hook because she's pretty. Makes no sense. Makes no sense. So I was so sick of seeing her that I was like, if Bonnie don't get more scenes, you're not gonna see me. And they did it, so I left. And I just survived on YouTube clips of Bonnie and Damon because that's the real story that we're all here for. Oh, that's the
So
real
would you
story.
recommend reading the books then? Because I don't think I could watch the show. I just don't
I didn't
think.
read the books.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I
Bonnie
don't know.
wasn't even black in the books. She was Bonnie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the part that I was like, oh, really? Because, and
Yeah.
that's the thing for me, that I have the same question for the producers with Bonnie as with Gwen.
Hmm.
Racial bending. All right, as long as you're not bending a black person to a non-black person, I really don't care. But when you choose to make a person who was in a book white, and you
Hmm.
choose to make them black in a cinematic or a TV drama production, my question is why? Because why did you make Gwen black to make her a servant? Why did you make Bonnie black to make her an Eve and morally gray witch, who everyone was annoyed about most of the time because she wasn't team vampire? Find something else to complain about. Like, so maybe pass them. Yeah, I'm not reading them.
I'm not.
I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
So I just question why bother making someone black if you're not going to let them like really soar in the way that the character could have. And two, I don't. What is Sky Andrews' name? Do you know her? I don't know her. I see her all the time though. Do you know her actual name? No. Okay,
Oh,
so
oh,
Sky
Sarah. That's
Angel.
Sarah. Sarah. Sarah.
Okay, I
Sarah.
was
Her
like,
name is
okay,
Sarah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
So the point
Sorry, I was
is
like, what?
sacrifice.
Sky Angel. I was like, who is Sky Angel? Oh, on the screen. Bless my whole heart. Anyway,
Yes,
yes,
it's Sarah's
Sarah is her
point.
name.
The
Yeah.
sacrifice for the friends.
Yeah.
I was like, let this be a cautionary tale to black people whose only friends are white people. They will let you be the first one to get axe murdered and call it your due.
Man, I like I said, I was a Sookie Stackhouse and True Blood person, and in the books, Lafayette. There's two black characters in the in both the books and the show. In the books, though, this is not a spoiler because it happens on like page 2. Lafayette is the first person killed. Like he's the first body you find. So we
Imagine how
don't. Yeah, but then Tara, she's black but she's got a crackhead mama and all of this in both the books and the show. But I think they do, obviously, because they let him live through the whole show for the most part. They do Lafayette a little bit better in the show,
okay.
even though he can never catch a break in the show, but he gets to be Lafayette, and he is who he is. I forget the actor's name. May he rest in peace. But
Oh,
yeah, he um that show was something else, and they had, well, there was more than just those two. The mother was in the show. Tara's mother was in that show and in the book, and then like a preacher or something.
okay.
So there's more than just those two main characters. I just think now that I've read this, I'm gonna have to go back and watch that show because I think it's on um, Amazon Prime or something,
Okay.
and rewatch it with
Yeah.
my new lens.
Yes.
um, so then we go from talking about Bonnie to Hermione is black, and I don't know. I mean, obviously, this came out in 2019, and old girl hadn't been showing her whole ass just yet. But she had started with her problematic stuff with the announcement, or the whatever, if you would call it an announcement, or whatever. I guess you would call it an announcement that Hermione is black. When there was some kind of discourse on Reddit or somewhere on the internet corner,
J.K.
it's in
Rowling.
here. Yeah, she said she was black. And she says that here in the book, and so I'm about to find the damn quote. I just thought, I can't remember how that came about. If anybody in the comments remembers how that whole thing went down, because I remember it going down on Twitter, but it didn't start on Twitter. But essentially, some fan fiction came out, and
Oh yeah.
the author was like, yeah, Hermione is black. And so, and then also Dumbledore is gay or whatever.
Yeah, well,
And
that
so,
was years previous, apparently.
yeah, I can't remember how it all went down, but it was a whole big thing. And I guess all of that happened before she started being a turf. So, um, how did you did you read Harry Potter? Did you watch the movies?
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah.
what it was. She said she never said Hermione was white in the books. Yeah, that's what it was. I
Okay.
forgot how it all went down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Here's my thing.
She didn't like explicitly say it, Josh. It was more like,
That could be the case because I never said that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I, you know, this is the problem with crippled imaginations. Um, you because I talked about this in a later video on a very early video on my channel talking about Stephanie Meyer and Twilight. With like you just completely crippling any capacity that you have to be able to imagine beyond whiteness. I don't love. I could see where people could be excited about her being like, oh, Hermione could be black because I never said that she was white. Here's where that becomes kind of the thing though. Did you ever really explicitly say that anyone was white? That's the thing. It's like if you said that everybody else was white, but you never gave a racial qualification for Hermione, then that works. But if you didn't really describe Hermione any different than any other person, and now you're just trying to make some wiggle room and say, well, that could be the case, I don't like that because then my thing would be, well, if Hermione could have been black, then why was Emma whatever Watson playing her in the movies? Like,
yeah,
I don't equivocate. Say what you said with your whole
yeah.
case. It's fine if you're
Stand
like,
in it.
I'm okay with that reading of The Cursed Child. I think that's a wonderful read. But don't try to give yourself retroactive kudos like you made some space that wasn't there.
Yep. This is what I remember. Yeah, I remember her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Um. So like, I didn't care. I loved Harry Potter as a kid, and I read them. Well, not as a kid because I was older when they came out, but like high school age. And then I
Uh-huh.
watched because other than Goosebumps and My Teacher is an Alien, there wasn't that much that I was exposed to as far as fantasy and children's stories, and I love fantasy. Like that's my jam.
Yeah.
So I kind of ate that up. But like I didn't care. I don't care if Hermione is black or not. Like,
Yeah.
and you could have kept it, I guess. Like,
Yeah, I wouldn't say all that honestly for me. I would have loved if Hermione was black, but I would have loved if Hermione was black, not if you gave
black.
her room for her to be interpreted as black. Because Hermione,
And I don't
obviously
know if
my
I can
favorite character. Yeah, I don't know.
trust you with
I don't know.
that because you named the one Asian character Cho Chang. The one Cho Chang.
Two last names.
Bruh, and also I'm just glad you didn't name the one black character. Like, I don't even want to give anybody ideas.
Yeah.
But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so
Right.
you can't be trusted, obviously. You can't be trusted
Exactly.
um with that type of thing.
No.
Yeah. hmm
What
I
else?
mean, that's, I feel like that's a totally, no shade, it's like a totally different, I don't know, because like the story with Hermione never was like her ethnicity and race never, it was never something that we ever thought to question, in the books or in the movies. So,
Because basically
it
everybody
just,
was white. It's
or
funny.
like anybody, I'm sorry.
It's like 'cause basically everybody was white, so there just was it was
Yeah.
just it was like most other people there.
Yeah. We just assume that, you know, not even assume that's what she gave us. Like, she never had to do that. But with I didn't really even think about the sexuality of any of the professors
Me neither.
because they weren't like, for me, and I'm not saying it is good or bad. I'm just saying I never even thought about it. For her to say that part was like,
Yeah. It just
you
felt like she
know,
was trying to give everybody a piece of something. Like
what
whenever
they
she
wanted.
mentioned
It was like she was just saying yes. Yeah, she
right,
was just
because
saying
it
yes
feels
to
like that's
everything. And it's like, oh, he's gay. And oh, I love your Harry Potter and Draco fanfic. And oh, maybe he's gay. And it's kind of like, girl, please stop. Like, you have
right.
this
Like that's
whole
not your
legacy.
job.
Yeah, you have this whole legacy, and
Yeah,
we have our fanfic. So let us,
exactly. You
yeah.
don't have to respond to every fanfic. You can say, "Oh, that's a
No.
very interesting interpretation." You can like it, right? Because I'm sure before, before, people would have loved to
Yeah.
see their favorite author be like, "Oh, I think your fanfic is interesting." That would have made their day. But you don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to try to canonize it. That's why
Yeah. I don't.
fanfic is fanfic because it's outside the canon. It's just imagination. At the
Yeah.
last period, your job as the author is pretty much done. Interpretation is the
Yeah.
job of the reader. Now the story is ours to do what we want to, but no one's expecting you to go back and redact anything from the canon from the series.
Yeah. I wonder why she felt motivated to do that. I mean, we don't have to talk about her anymore, but like, I just wonder because it just messed me up that she went there because I was kind of like, one,
Yeah,
why, and two, if this is not your place, I guess it's no longer yours, to be quite honest. So,
and
um,
that's the thing. It's like once you publish a story, it belongs to the culture. It belongs to the
yeah,
readers. So she
yeah,
didn't have to say anything. I don't know why. I will never know why she felt moved to do it. I think she maybe
never,
just wanted people to feel like the story could be anyone's. But it's like, well, that's the thing. If that person says that they identify with the story, that they accepted the story into their childhood narrative or youthful narrative or whatever the heck, then it is. But if some little black girl, some indigenous person, some Asian American, like if anyone else that's not white and is not really given any sort of prioritized representation in that book, if any of them, if any of us watch it or read it and are like, yeah, no, that doesn't really give me, you
yeah,
saying, "Oh, but it could have been," like that really just feels like you attempting to be colorblind.
yeah,
You made your choices
yeah.
racially. Now you need to deal with them. It is what it is.
Um, this restoring is page. Well, the section starts um on page 156, and it kind of sort of talks about um letting the people sort of
Mm-hmm.
reimagine
Which we
the
just talked.
world and make it's ours now, essentially, um and like reshaping the narrative
Mm-hmm.
after we find out Hermione is black.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever. I mean, do people think of Hermione as black, or that Hermione is black now? Like,
I don't.
I mean, for the most part, we're not talking about that series in that book. There, I mean, we have the Lightning Thief. It's right there. It's superior anyway. But like, if new readers pick that up in the library or the movie or whatever, are they probably not if they only experience the movie, but
Right.
are they? I don't know.
Or even if they
Um,
experience the movie first, because you already have all the characters in your mind now.
yeah,
Like Hermione's Emma Watson. If you saw the movies first,
yeah,
which you
exactly.
could.
Like, I could never see. Yeah, I couldn't unsee Emma Watson as Hermione.
Me neither. And honestly, I'm not even called to do so because, like, Hermione
Mhm.
was my favorite character, was and is my favorite character in the entire series. Harry, mm, okay, you're the chosen one. I understand that, but like, it gets
Yeah.
it gets old. The chosen one, like everything being around about you gets old. Hermione gave us growth. Like
Yeah.
Harry's growth was the very typical chosen one growth of, am I good enough to do this? Oh, I'm an outcast now, I'm the center of attention. Like it was very familiar angst. Hermione blossomed into becoming more of who she was when we first met her, and I loved that. They would have died
Mhm.
5,000 deaths without Hermione, and that's true whether she's
Yeah.
white, black, or anything else. Like, they just needed her. And to your point, we don't really know anything about Hermione as a person either. We don't even see her parents until like the last the last book, or the very very last movie, part 2, or no, part 1 of the last movie. And then in the last book we don't really get much reference to her parents until we see her do the like oblivios or something spell on them, where she removes their memory of her, which I'm like, I need to know
Yeah.
so much more, and we didn't get it. So, and we didn't get it. Our Hermione could have been black in some ways, and that she was kind of in some ways treated as like the custodian of Harry. Like
Yeah.
she was the librarian. She was the one who was like, "What do you need? Here's the spell." Like she was a helper.
Yeah. She was.
So
She
she
was.
could have been black in the way they treated her, but like, I don't need it because, like you said, I don't really trust J.K. Rowling with that. And other black people in there, or the only other black person, what's his name, Dean or something like that.
Was it Dean or Seamus? Or I think it was Dean,
It played by
the
the
one
dude
that
who
Jenny
played
was
West
kissing.
in How to Get Away with Murder. Um,
Yeah.
what did we get from him? What did we get from that young man? Like, and no shade to the actor. Not It's nothing about the actor.
No.
About what did you
No.
write for that character to do? He was just there. It's like you just colored him black. I don't even remember if he was black in the book.
I don't remember if it was said.
I don't remember if it was of no importance either way. It was of no.
No, because I think by the time, yeah, it wasn't. It didn't matter. Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, we don't even really know that Cho. Well, yeah, we do, because she talked about her hair being dark, and I think she even might have talked about her eye shape or something. Um, but yeah, look, don't. There was so many problems, and we was just in there eating it up. But
Right.
anyways,
Oh my gosh.
um, I really wanted to print this. On it's
I
on
just
page
saw that.
160. Yeah, I really wanted to print this out, and I really don't even think I had time to really, because I also was listening to the audiobook
Me
in
too. So I didn't even
between,
do
like,
this. I'm having to go
yeah,
back and read this, or like listen to the audiobook and read with it. So I haven't even gotten to all the like to seeing all the things that I heard, and I definitely haven't gotten here. So when I just flipped through it to the notes section when you mentioned it, I was like, wait, what is
yeah, yeah, yeah. This right here, it's about the restoring the self, bending toward the textual justice. But that section, this whole section, I just I need to go back and read it so I can absorb it a little bit
Yeah,
more. Like
same.
at this point, it's been about 2 weeks since I finished this. I think I
Okay.
finished it on the 11th, and then I had to return the physical book. Like I didn't have any renewals on it, so I had to send it right back. But whew,
Yeah, I'm definitely
just the first read through that section really hit me, and I was like, everybody needs to read this book.
yeah.
Um, let me put a bookmark in here. But yeah, is there anything from the now I thought the author had narrated, but it's not her.
No.
It's another person, and they did an excellent job, I thought,
Yeah.
of um reading it. But
Yeah.
is there anything else? Oh, look at Yes. Is there anything else you want to point out in this book that like really just went there for you?
I mean, nothing that that is fully percolated. I have a lot of things
Yeah.
this brought up, but I would want me to read this again slower of those things to remember what sparked it and then to go and read the text that I'm thinking about. For instance, I'm rereading chapter 1 now, like I'm just started over so I can mark in the book. Um and she says something about like folklore and fairy tales being part of how we represent and understand society. And I thought immediately about Oh McKinney's A Blade So Black and Tracy Dion's Nightverse, because not Dion's Nightverse, Tracy Dion's Legendborn, because I have like things with both of those books. And and like criticism for them, and reading that, like, there's I need to reread this before I really understand what about what she's saying might redeem those for me a little bit, and what might help me to articulate more of my criticism for it. But
Yeah.
nothing that I'm like, yeah, I know what's bothering me about it. I don't know what's bothering me about it. Yeah, for now, I just have my same like gripes with those books, and honestly, they're not gripes. They're valid criticism, so I'm not gonna call it a gripe. But yeah, she's definitely helping me think through. Hi. She's definitely helping me think through some books that I would never read again if not for this book. Um, but yeah, nothing that's
Yeah, I
like
think
started in the text and concluded in the text. Now it's just helping, like giving me a new lens, like you said, for other things that I've read.
I definitely want and need to reread it at least two more times just because um it's just so rich and it's just like I'm not going to be able to I want it all to soak in so that I can recall some things
Mhm.
on demand. Um and I just really want everybody to read this book. If you're on this live and you haven't read this book, I say borrow it, but with the intent of buying. With the intent of buying. It's by Ebony Elizabeth Thomas. I was able to listen to it on Hoopla from my library. My library also had a physical copy, but you got it from Scribd, Britt.
Mhm. Yep.
And was it the audiobook
Yep.
or
The audio.
okay? So there's that. You're gonna want to write in here, or if you don't, just write your notes in full on a piece of paper and not a sticky note like me. I should have been typing in my notes app
Yeah.
as I was listening, but I was cleaning, I was cooking, I was driving.
Well, the
So
thing is, if you're very hesitant about reading an academic book, it may relieve some of your anxiety to listen to it first, and
hmm
realize that it's very accessible. And then when you have some comfortability with it, then you may want to go back and read it. That may be helpful to do a hybrid read where you have it being read to you as well, because it truly is accessible. But sometimes just like picking up a book and starting in an introduction when she's like, my theory and Toni Morrison and Robin
yeah,
Bernstein and all, like, it can be overwhelming. So if you need
yeah,
help just like getting through, the audiobook is like 7.5 hours. It's not very long at all. So it may help
yeah,
you to start with the audiobook and then be
yeah.
like, yes, I can buy this, and then go through it.
hmm
And then have
True
the
that.
audiobook playing as you go through it, reading again, because that's what I'm doing. So I don't
Yeah,
get stuck in like in too many sections, like daydreaming. Like the audiobook helps me to like continue to move with patience, so I want to stop and really dig into a particular section.
yeah. I think I'll get it from Scribd this time, so I don't have to
Give it back.
rush. Yeah, I don't have to give it back, or I don't have to rush through
Yeah.
in a certain amount of time.
Mhm.
Again, so thank you for telling me it was there, you and Josh. Um,
Gosh, I'm so
and thank you
excited
for joining me for our little chat here.
for having me.
I'm sorry that you had to change your whole dissertation, but I'm glad you read it. I'm glad you are here.
Oh my gosh.
Um, I wish you all the best luck in doing the work now.
Yeah.
And yes, Sarah, I think you'll enjoy it too.
Yay!
Um,
Listen, Sarah said,
um, yeah. Hey Jennifer. But yeah, thank you for joining me. I'm sorry that we couldn't talk a little bit longer and that I couldn't remember parts of that one section, but um, this is always fun.
yes.
We have at least we haven't planned anything yet, but I feel like we should buddy read something again.
Yeah.
Get that on the docket for maybe like summertime.
Yeah, because I know you're about to hit this new project up with the now that's what I call Black Love.
Yes, we our first live show for that will be on the 13th of February, and I am reading. Well, I haven't even started yet, but I'm going to read a nonfiction book about Black relationships. I think is what the overall theme of the collection of essays is, and it's Where Did Our Love Go? I forgot the author's name, or well, the editor's name, but I will. It's on the Black Love channel, and we're just gonna talk about Black love and Black romance, where everybody's Black, and I mean, I don't know that I've seen any by non-Black authors, but if they are, I guess we're gonna read them at some point and talk about them. I haven't seen that. Have you seen that? Where all the parties are Black, but the author is not?
No.
Okay, I hadn't seen it, and I would love to. Nah, I would love to see it. I want to see it, and I'm
As
gonna
a
check
case
it.
study, it would be interesting.
Yeah, as a case
Yes.
study, I would definitely pick it up because I just would like to see um
What they doing?
what they would do. Anyways, I just my mind the way my mind just
No, yeah, no, they weren't all
no.
black, but as
Okay.
I did read, unfortunately, just two, because by the third one I started to peep it. There was I don't even remember what the woman's name is, but it was it was an erotica series, which like of course, um, where it was the Dare Menage series where there
Oh.
was yeah where there was
Uh,
always it all there was always a white man and a black man and then a white woman. So in
mm,
the first couple of books, it would be a white man and a black man would be already like in a committed relationship, and then a white woman would enter for some reason or other, whether it was like just straight up attraction or she needed help and they all fell in love. And then I think by the third one, it was that there was just a married couple, like a white guy and a white woman. And Deidre, I kid you not, she literally was like, I looked across the room and he was so dark that I was drawn to him. I said, and it's a wrap on that. It's a wrap on that. Done with the series. Like oh,
ma'am, jail, jail time. Anyways, uh, I can't. No,
Naturally.
like this is not a black hole. This is not space. What are you talking about? Like, get out of here.
And this stuff gets published.
It
I'm
gets
like,
published with healthy advances and shit. This
exactly.
right here is the name of the editor for Where Did Our Love Go? Thank you,
Okay.
Sarah. But yeah, so thank you for joining me here. I will see you when we do things over there, and then we will talk about what we can read next together.
I'm excited.
Okay. Thank y'all for watching. We'll see y'all next time.